Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So the water table exists in the shallow depths. Then there is a transfer of water between subsurface flow and groundwater flow. Anyway, the water from the subsurface flow and groundwater flow, again they joins streams and rivers and finally oceans. And we can see that the overland flow, part of it goes to part of it infiltrates, and remaining part it flows as a surface runoff, and again it joins streams, rivers, and finally ocean. So this overland flow, when overland flow is taking place, part of that water that evaporates, okay, that's become transpiration, and water from rivers, ocean, etc. again the evaporates. So the transpirated water and evaporated water, that becomes evapotranspiration. That, and even this interception losses also, they evaporated, and finally all this water joins clouds or condensation. Then from there again the precipitation takes place. So we can see that these all subcomponents, they are connected as an input or output, and these all subcomponents, they are working towards a common goal, that is hydrological cycle, that is continuous circulation of water on this planet. For example, even we can consider, because system, of course hydrological system is a very big system. As I said, it has got different subcomponents, and each subcomponent we can also treat it as a small system. So let us consider this rainfall runoff on a watershed system, and the schematic is shown in this slide. So you can see that this is the catchment, okay, like it's shown like a leaf. In this catchment, this boundary, this is a watershed divide, or we can, it is also called as a ridge line. So what is this ridge line? Because this demarcates or divides the watershed area from other watersheds, because this is the elevation of this ridge line is high, and remaining part of the watershed is elevation is low. So therefore, whatever the water is falling in this watershed, it flows along the gradient. Okay, finally it reaches a outlet. So every watershed area has one outlet. So that outlet is the lowest elevation within that watershed area. So therefore, all the water flows to that point, and from there it joins a stream. So this, for explanation purpose, this watershed is shown as a, its plan is shown as a circle, and it's shown as a cylindrical control volume. So whatever precipitation is occurring in this control volume, that is only falling in this watershed, and finally the water is exiting from this watershed at the outlet as a stream flow. So hydrological system model, okay, so these systems can be modeled mathematically. Okay, so in this in the earlier figure I shown that a system which takes input and which gives output, and system is like a black box. Within that, the input is transformed, okay, some transformation takes place, and then it gives output. So we can write that outflow is equal to transformation of inflow. So this transformation, which can be Laplace operator, or which can be Fourier operator, or which can be anything, okay, or it is a constant also. So we can also explain, I mean, for simplicity, we can write this Qt is equal some constant into IT. IT is nothing but inflow, Qt is outflow. So C is equal outflow by inflow, that is Qt by IT, that is equal to C. And we can also similarly, we can also write storage within a system, that is equal to some constant times outflow. So outflow is outflow units are volume per time, okay, they're like meter cube per second or something like that, whereas storage is in meter cubes. So this K, which has got units of time. So continuity equation, we can write it ds by dt is equal IT minus Qt. Okay, so rate of storage of water within a watershed or within a control volume, that is equal to inflow into the control volume minus outflow from the control volume. We can already explain that S is written as K times Q. So therefore ds by dt is written as K dq by dt plus Qt is equal IT. But Qt we have written as so K into dq by dt plus Qt is equal IT, and we can write this dq by dt is dq. Okay, d is differential operator. So from that, so kd q, when we take out q, that becomes kd plus 1 is equal IT. So the transformation, that is omega, so that is equal to Qt by IT. Okay, so that becomes 1 by 1 plus kd, because what we are writing is kd plus 1 times q is equal to I, and we know that the transformation is equal to q by I. So therefore we will get transform parameter, that is equal to 1 by 1 plus kd. Okay, so suppose if the k which is a constant, suppose if the k is just a numerical value, then the relation between input output is a linear relation. But suppose k is function of either inflow or outflow, then the relation between this Qt and IT becomes non-linear. So hydrological system, any hydrological model which can be classified as physical based on physics, or based on analogy, or based on abstract. Okay, so there are any hydrological model can be classified as 3 types. Okay, that is based on scale models, and analog models, and abstract models. Okay, so there are 3 types of classification. So hydrological model means anything. So suppose a dam, that is also a model, or flow is taking place under a dam. Okay, that is seepage is taking place under a dam, so that is also a model. So scale model is, suppose there is a dam, or dam is going to be constructed, but we need to study how the dam performs. Okay, then we construct a small dam within our laboratory by taking some scale like 1:100 or 1:1000, etc. What is this scale? So like 1000, suppose a scale of 1:100 of prototype. That means the dam, like 100 meters of dam is considered as 1 meter in the lab. Suppose the dam height is, let's say, 100 meters. Then when the dam is constructed in laboratory, height is taken as 1 meter. That means the linear scale between the prototype and model is like 1:100. So any dam or any hydraulic structure before the construction or even after the construction, it is physically again modeled in a laboratory by adapting to some scale. Okay, those are called as physical models. Then analog models. So in analog models, a complex phenomena which is difficult to model is modeled by a simple, understandable similar phenomena in other field. For example, seepage under a dam. So that is very difficult to physically model it. Okay, but generally the flow rate can be represented by and pressures can be represented by voltage. So therefore the seepage can be studied by electrical analogy. Okay, so a complex phenomena such as seepage, so which is represented by a simple phenomena which can be easily understand, compressible and comprehensible, and results can be transferred to the complex phenomena. So what I mean to say is that like seepage under a dam can be studied using electrical analogy in a laboratory, and we can see how the streamlines are formed, what is their pattern, and we can see what are the pressure rates at different points using this electrical analogy, and we can transfer these values to the real-time seepage flow under a dam. Then the third model is a mathematical model. It is called as abstract model. So these abstract models, there are two types, deterministic and stochastic. So in the deterministic, this classification of abstract model as deterministic or stochastic, that is based on the randomness of that output. So in the deterministic, suppose it is a deterministic model. Suppose the modeling pipe flow or modeling open channel flow, this is a kind of a deterministic model, because for a given input we always get the same output. Whereas in the stochastic model, the output is always various. All output is always varies irrespective of the constant input value, because when we use a stochastic model, when we try to find output, so output is always associated with the probability distribution function. So for example, what is how much rain occurs, how much rain will occur tomorrow. Okay, so this is a stochastic process, because there is no 100% accurate answer for this. Only we can say that with 90% probability 5 centimeter rainfall, or 60% probability 4 centimeter rainfall, etc. So we can only give a value and its probability. So therefore this kind of the model which gives this kind of output, that is a value with probability, is called as a stochastic model. So deterministic model, again depending upon the spatial variation, they are classified as Lumpur system and Lumpur system or distributed system. So Lumpur system means there is no spatial variation. That means the flow variables are averaged in space. That means suppose we are modeling a flow in an open channel. In a lumped system, so the depth is not varying along the spatial coordinate, but depth or velocity, they are not changing with the spatial coordinate. But this lumped system, again, it can be divided into steady state or unsteady state. So in the steady state, although at any given time these flow variables are same, or they are not changing with spatial coordinate, but they will change with time, then it will become unsteady flow. So we can say that lumped steady flow, that is flow variables are constant in time, along the time and as along the space. But in unsteady flow, the flow variables are not changing at any given time in spatial direction, but as the time changes, the flow variables, although same along the spatial coordinate, but they are changing with the time. Similarly, the distributed system. What is distributed system? In distributed system, the flow variables are changing with along the spatial coordinate. And the distributed system is also again classified as steady state and unsteady state. So in steady state, the flow variables are changed in the distributed system, steady flow, in that the flow variables are changing spatially and as well as temporally. They are in distributed steady flow, the flow variables are changing spatially, but they are not changing in time. And in distributed unsteady flow, the flow variables are changing along with spatial coordinate and as well as time coordinate. This is all about the deterministic model. So in the stochastic model, again they are classified as space independent and space correlated. So space independent means, so any hydrological model, so it consists what you can say that there are a series of so any stochastic hydrologic model, it has got a series of hydrologic events. Okay, so these hydrological events, if they are space independent, that means so along the space, if the probability distribution function is not changing, then it is called as space independent. Suppose these hydrological events, the probability distribution functions of hydrological events, they are changing along in the space. Okay, suppose we have an area, and so there are different locations. So at each location, probability distribution function of a particular event is not changing. That means it is space independent. But the probability distribution function at an event at one location is influenced by the probability distribution function of that event at other locations. Then it is called as space correlated. So this space independent and space correlated, again they are divided into time independent and time correlated. So in time independent means, so in the sequence of these hydrological events, so at any time one event, if it is influenced by its preceding event, then it is, we can say that it's time correlated. But if it is not influenced by its precedent event, then it's called as time independent. That means, suppose if we along the time direction, if we plot these probability distribution functions of an event, then if they are not changing with the time, then it's time independent. But if the probability distribution function is changing with time, then it's time correlated. So here hierarchical model classification is shown. So in the top figure, that is in the figure 1.4.2a, it is a deterministic lumped static flow model. So deterministic lumped static flow means the flow variable, that is let's say either velocity or inflow or outflow or depth, okay, if they are not changing along the spatial coordinate. So here the spatial coordinate is x, okay. So along the channel length, if inflow is not changing and outflow is not changing with respect to time and as well as spatial coordinate, then it is a deterministic lumped static flow model. So we can see that inflow at the inlet and outflow at the outlet are plotted, and we can see that the inflow is not changing with the time, and this inflow, it becomes outflow and it's not changing in the x direction. And at outlet also the outflow is not changing with the time. So this is a deterministic lumped static flow model, that is for I equal 3. So B, which shows deterministic lumped unsteady flow model. So and when this unsteady flow is comes into the picture, that means in continuity equation the ds by dt term exists. Okay, this ds by dt is not, this term is which represents whether it is a steady or unsteady flow. So in unsteady flow this term exists. That means the inflow hydrograph is different, then outflow hydrograph is different. So whatever the difference, that becomes a storage. Okay, so here in this grid, it is shown that at time t the inflow is varying. Okay, so this is unsteady flow. Then at the outlet, again the outflow is varying with time. Okay, so this becomes again an unsteady flow, and in between this inflow and outflow, because it is spatially averaged in between, so therefore it is a lumped system. Let's go to the next figure. Here C, where it is a distributed unsteady flow model. That means the inflow is different and inflow hydrograph is different from outflow hydrograph. So therefore there is a storage is taking place. In the deterministic model, we are not spatially averaging these values. Okay, we are calculating at every grid point along the spatial direction. So that is called as a distributed system. So we can see that at time t, suppose the inflow is shown by big cycle here, and which is gradually decreasing. Okay, so this shows this is a deterministic, this shows is a distributed system, and this size of these circles, they are changing in time. Okay, so that is a unsteady flow. And in this last figure, that is 1.4.2d, so this is a stochastic space independent and time independent model. So we can see that the probability distribution at the inlet is given here. Okay, and the probability distribution so is not changing in time. Okay, so this is a time independent model, and this probability distribution which is also, see here it is, the size is same, That means so along the length direction, the size of the probability distribution is constant. Okay, so that is a space independent. So this is all about hydrological model classification. So next I am going to teach Reynolds transport theorem. So in hydrology or in hydraulics or in terms any fluid mechanics, to calculate, I mean for numerical modeling or for mathematical modeling, for analytical modeling, we have to solve continuity and momentum equations. Okay, so these are nothing but conservation laws. Very rarely we use energy conservation, but most of the times in hydraulics and hydrology we will solve continuity and momentum equations. So we know that what is continuity equation and momentum equation. So continuity equation is equal, that is ds by dt is equal inflow minus outflow, or ds by dt plus outflow minus inflow is equal to 0. So which shows that whatever is coming in going out, or otherwise if they are not equal, then there is a storage is taking place. Suppose inflow is more than outflow, then there is a storage increasing, or suppose the outflow is more than inflow, then the storage is depleting. For momentum equation, so momentum equation mainly governs the flow of water in a pipe or river, or flow of water in subsurface, flow of water in groundwater. Okay, so the movement of water, so that is how it moves, because it is governed by inertial forces, frictional forces, and gravity forces, and buoyant forces, pressure forces, etc. So its acceleration, okay, so that is balanced by these forces. In we have studied this momentum equation in continuity equation in classical mechanics. Okay, because in classical mechanics the momentum equation is defined as the rate of change of momentum is equal to the net forces acting on that system. But in classical mechanics, the fixed mass is moving when it is when we apply momentum equation, we apply to a fixed mass of solid or item, which is called as a system. But we cannot apply that Newton's second law to in the same form to the flow of water. Why? Because when the flow of water or flow of gas, or flow of air is taking place, it fills the shape of that container. So therefore, as it flows section to section, I mean if we consider reach to reach, the mass is changing, because suppose at one location the river is narrow, or we can say that pipe is small pipe. Okay, so therefore if we take a unit length of that, the mass will be different. When the pipe expands, and then if we take the unit length there, then the mass increases. So therefore when we apply the momentum equation to fluid flow, we'll use control volume theory. Okay, So in the classical mechanics, it is a system, whereas it in fluid mechanics, it is a control volume. And the relation between the system and control volume, that is given by Reynolds transport theorem. So there are two, there is a system and control volume. So capital B, that is extensive property of system, whereas beta, that is a property of control volume. So capital B, that which is property of system, that is called as extensive property, whereas intensive property beta, that is equal to dB by dm, or that is extensive property per unit mass. Because since in control volume we don't consider mass, so therefore we consider there as property per unit mass. So beta is equal, if for continuity equation is mass balance, okay, where the extensive property is mass, but intensive property of a control volume is equal to mass per unit mass, that is beta is equal 1.0. For momentum equation, extensive property is mv, whereas intensive property is v, because mv by m, that is equal to v. So Reynolds transport theorem, that applies physical laws to a fluid flowing continuously through a control volume, and Reynolds transport theorem, that relates time rate of change of extensive property in the fluid to external forces producing the change. So now we know that suppose Newton's second law, that says time rate of change of momentum is equal to the net forces acting on that. Similarly, in Reynolds transport theorem, what we say, rate of change of an extensive property in the fluid equal to, or in the control volume, that is equal to the external forces producing that change. So let's derive Reynolds transport theorem. Okay. So Reynolds transport theorem, that relates system to the control volume. So here the control volume, it is represented by a dash line, whereas system is represented by thick line, and we see here the system is moving through control volume. So at time t, part of the system is inside the control volume and part of the system is outside the control volume. So the control volume, that is part of the system which is yet to go into the control volume, that is represented by delta B in at time t, whereas at time t plus delta t, the system is moving through control volume, and part of the system is within the control volume and part of the system is outside the control volume, because that is moved out. Part of the system moved out from the control volume and part of the system is still within the control volume. So the part of the system which is just moved out of control volume, that is represented by delta B out. So the inside at time t, the extensive property within the control volume, that is shown by BCV, that is equal to beta rho del V integrated over control volume. Okay, so this rho dV, that is nothing but mass. Okay, when you multiply mass into this intensive property, then that becomes extensive property. So the mass of system at time t is equal that mass of system within the control volume plus mass of system that is yet to inflow into the control volume, that is delta B in. So B system T is equal BCVT plus delta B in, and mass of system at T plus delta T, that is equal to, so mass of system within the control volume at T plus delta T plus mass of system just flown out of the control volume at T plus delta T, that is equal to delta B out. dB system by dt, so this is the rate of change of extensive property of the system, that is equal to limit delta tends to 0, B system T plus delta T minus B system T divided by delta T. So dB system by dt, that is equal limit delta T tends to 0, B system T plus delta T, that is nothing but BCVT plus delta Bn. Okay, so B system T plus delta T, that is equal BCVT plus delta T, that is here. Okay, plus delta B out, so that is here, limit delta T stays to delta B out, and B system T, that is equal BCVT and delta B, so that came here. So this BCV T plus delta T minus BCV T divided by delta T, that we can represent it as dBCV by dt, and so that dBCV by dt, that we can BCV, we can write it as beta rho dV integration of control volume. So dBCV by dt, that is equal d by dt of integration of beta rho dV. Then limit delta T tends to 0, this delta B out by delta T, so that can be expressed as beta rho AVS out, because delta B out, this is nothing but mass flow rate at the outlet, so that is equal to, so mass flow rate of fluid is written as rho AVS multiplied with beta. Similarly, delta B in by delta T, that is a mass flow rate at the inlet, that is equal to beta rho AVS in. So totally the rate of change of extensive property of the system dB system by dt, that is written as d by dt integration of beta rho dV plus b rho AVS out minus b rho AVS in, and this two terms, that is beta rho AVS out minus beta rho AVS in, that is nothing but surface integral of mass flow through the control surface. So that is surface integral of beta rho v dA. So d by dt is equal d by dt of integration of beta rho dV control volume plus integration of beta rho v over control surface. So this Reynolds transport theorem, depending upon the intensive property, the equation becomes either continuity equation or momentum equation or energy equation. Suppose for continuity equation, intensive property is equal to 1, that is dV by dm is equal to 1, because capital B is mass, so dm by dm is equal to 1, and from law of conservation, that is okay, mass neither created nor destroyed, so therefore the dm by dt, that is because mass in a system is constant, okay, that is not changing with time, so therefore dm by dt is equal to 0. Then the Reynolds transport theorem becomes 0 is equal to d by dt of integration of rho dV over control volume plus rho v dA over control surface. And similarly for water, because water is for atmospheric pressure, we can consider it as a incompressible, so rho is constant, and when, because it is equal to 0, this continuity equation equal to 0, so when we take out rho, then that equation becomes d by dt of integration of volume plus integration of velocity over a control surface. Similarly for momentum equation, dv by dm that is equal to v. So when we substitute here, but since the rate of change of momentum is taking place due to the imbalance of external forces, so therefore always the rate of momentum is of system is always changing due to the imbalance of forces. So on the left side it becomes dv by dt, so that is equal to d by dt of integration of rho v d volume integration over control volume plus rho v square dA integration over control surface. Because beta, so in this equation when we are write to momentum equation, capital B is equal to velocity, capital B is equal to mv, so d of mv by dt, and small beta is equal to velocity. So when we substitute velocity here, so dmv by dt is equal to d by dt of velocity rho dv integration over control volume, time rate of integration of beta rho dv over control volume plus v rho v dA integration over control surface. So I'm stopping it here because Reynolds transport theorem is applied what we can for every physical phenomena. We are applying this Reynolds transport theorem in this hydrology class, such as precipitation, evaporation, evapotranspiration, runoff. Everywhere we are applying Reynolds transport theorem. So we are applying either as a continuity equation or momentum equation, or sometimes both continuity equation and as a momentum equation. So in the next class we will apply this continuity equation for we are applying Reynolds transport theorem for continuity equation, that becomes ds by dt is equal it minus qt. Okay, ds by dt is equal to I minus q. So we'll apply to a one phenomena in the next class. So I'll stop my introductory lecture of this hydrological process here, and we'll resume in the next class. Thank you.